In this video, I will basically show you how to set up a virtual sound check and explain a little bit about why you might want to use a virtual sound check and even what is a virtual sound check. A virtual sound check is basically whenever you can record the individual instruments from the band as well as vocalists, and then play it back through the console, so you can edit the sounds and the channels without the worship team even needing to be at the church. And the way you do that is with a program. You can use GarageBand. I prefer Waves Tracks Live. It looks a little bit complex, but essentially a brief overview of what this software is a program that allows you to record and capture the performances from musicians and maybe even singers and preachers like Fred in their individual track. So you can record them individually and go back and solo just the instruments or the tracks that you want to solo, as well as play them back through the board for a sound check. So I set this up as a template, and I saved it as it's called Multi-Track Template 1. So if you open it, it should open straight to this, and basically you immediately are ready to click play. You need to make sure this global record is turned on. Then you go up to the little transport bar up here. You can see that. So make sure this is turned on and hit record. And then it'll be recording on all the tracks. And just for a quick little sound check, maybe like a little test, I've got a microphone here going through channel 17. Check, check, 1, 2, check. So you see, I'll hit pause, and you can see if I zoom in right here, it captured my audio performance, or my sound, my voice coming through. So I can even go back, bring the playhead right around here, and click play, but make sure on the board, I'll get more detailed than this in just a moment. You'll hit play, and the audio won't go through the house, but you'll see it did play. To get it to go through the system, you'll need to go to the routing page. So you'll click routing right here by the screen and scroll down to card, because card is the USB interface that allows audio from your computer to go through the X32. So you'll click card for those two, as well as you can go to 17. And these are in banks of 8. So now that the card has been set up properly, I'll play the audio track I just recorded and unmute my channel. Check, 1, 2, check. And that's the audio that I just recorded. I'll go back and do that one more time. Check, check, 1, 2, check. So it's actually playing back audio that I just recorded from the computer, or from the board to the computer. I'm playing it from the computer back through the board and through the main system. And that's a basic way of how I was doing. I was mixing like the vocals and the instruments without having any of the musicians up on stage. So this is how I basically do my virtual sound checks. It's a nice way to save time. That way you don't have to have the musicians here to do a formal sound check. And so basically what you'll do on a Sunday morning, I'll close this as if I were starting from scratch. I would close that, open. I would open up a saved file. I will click Multi-Track Template 1. And it'll open up the track I just recorded. You can go over to a spot and Once this is selected, you hit record. This is a test. Check 1, 2, 1, 2, check. And I just recorded my own multi-track part, even though I'm only coming through on one channel. So I'll scroll down to, I'll zoom. Alright, I had a little bit of technical difficulties. Software's not wanting to respond. There we go. So I did record on channel 17. This is a test. Check 1, 2, 1, 2, check. There you go. That's basically how you'll set up your multi-tracks. For the most part right now, I would stick to using the USB recorder as your main method of recording, and I would stick with using this just at practices, just because I don't want to overload this computer with Pro Presenter and recording as well. Because the number one thing you don't want to happen during church is a computer crash, because you're trying to get it to do too much. So you can try it at a practice, and then use that recording from practice at another rehearsal to make that rehearsal sound check go a little bit smoother. But this is a basic setup for multi-track recording, and like I said, you can open this up just from scratch. Now if I close this completely and open up not a template, but I just open up the software, I'll not save that. If I just open up Tracks Live, it'll ask me if I'd like to load a recent project or just a new session. And you can click just open up a new session. You'll name it whatever you want. I'm going to name this Test 1. Let it load. And from here, you have your 32 tracks for the multi-track recording. And even though you might only be using maybe half of those, what you can do for the time being is go through and select all those channels. I'm holding Shift as I select this, and it selects a group of channels, 17 through 32, that I'm not using. It chooses 32 channels just because that is the number of channels on the Behringer X32. I'll right-click and remove. So right now, these are just channels 1 through 16. And from there, select Global Record, then the recording button. And there you go. You can record practices as well as services if you really wanted to try to work your computer as much as it can. But my recommendation is just use this for practice and use the computer just for Pro Presenter on Sunday mornings. All right, and that is kind of a brief, lightning fast overview of Tracks Live and multi-track recording. Just a continuation from the multi-track recording video. After you finish the sound check or the virtual sound check, you always want to be sure that you go to routing and set everything back to normal. So we're set at local 1 through 8, 9 through 16, and 17 through 24. I say this because from experience, you might do a sound check and then, once the full band gets here for practice, you can't get anything to work. And you wonder why nothing works. It's because the routing isn't properly set up. So you'll probably only use the routing just when you're changing the setup for maybe a virtual sound check and then to a normal, Sunday service. But be sure for practice, while there are musicians on stage, you always have routing set up back to its default settings, which are local 1 through 32. So you don't want to have these down at card. You want to have these on local. But while you're doing a sound check, you will need to have these set to card in order for audio to go through.